Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Rouge Rugby podcast. My name is Dan Murphy, and with me always is Derek Brissett. Derek, God, you know what? I feel like we do say we always have a lot to talk about, but I am unfortunately not happy about the fact that we have a lot to talk about. I was hoping that we would just talk about the disappointing Olympics and then go and talk about the MLR final. But unfortunately, some big kind of earth-shattering Rugby Canada news has come out since the women bowed out of the tournament, and I feel like it would just be negligent if we didn't do our part and talk about what happened.
It's I feel like since Thursday, I guess, it would have been Thursday night, right? When the women got eliminated, I feel like it's just been, what are we on, like 4 or 5 days of just watching Rugby Canada implode on itself.
Yeah. It's as an organization, they cannot stop tripping themselves up.
Oh man, it's terrible. It's like, it was one of those things, and I mean, we'll get into it in a bit, but it was one of those things that I was like, I remember a couple weeks ago when we were talking about like how excited we were about rugby being in the Olympics. If, in the event that Canada or the United States does well, which didn't happen in either case for any of the 4 teams. But we were like talking about like how if they did well, then it's like increased media coverage and, can grow the game on the sport. And then at least in this country, like the biggest Rugby Canada story was an absolute disaster. Tire fire. And just the biggest publicity that Rugby Canada got is like just horrendous infighting within the organization. That really boiled over after the women got knocked out of the tournament.
Well, let's get into it, because again, we got a lot to chat about, and let's start about the actual performance on the pitch before we get into everything else. So the women's sevens Rugby Canada team, after being touted as a medal favorite, gunning for gold, finished a disappointing 9th place. They were 1-2 in the pools, including a match against France where they did not score a single try. Grand scheme of things, you look at their pool and you go, okay, well, one of them's a bronze medalist and the other one's a silver medalist. Like, talk about just brutal foresight luck.
In hindsight, I guess you are technically correct in hindsight. That still doesn't shake my thoughts that they should.
No, it doesn't.
Won that pool.
Because again, Canada was ranked like second or third going into the Olympics.
Yeah, they finished third the last 2 full seasons of the 7 series.
So, we talked
including winning a couple tournaments along the road too.
We talked in our last episode about the expectations we had for them. So, we're not going to get into that.
Which turned out, how fast did that go out of date?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And that's the thing, right? Is, we're with a podcast like this, we are, restricted to when we have free time to edit this. Poor Derek only has so much time. And
I was editing it because I watched the women's games like before
we watched the Brazil game together.
Yeah, we watched
right after we recorded. We got right off, and the 3 of us watched that first game together, and we're like, okay.
Oh yeah, and then we got that, and then I watched the other 2. So it's like I was kind of starting to edit it already, knowing, like, kind of checking Twitter, being like, okay, so like China's got to win by like less than 18. Watching that game, being like, nope. Great Britain's got to lose. Nope. New Zealand's got to win, or Russia's got to win or lose by less than 34, or lose by 34 or more, and they lose 33-0. So I was like, that's when I was kind of starting to edit the podcast during all of that.
Yeah.
And it was like, and then, just watching and editing it while that happens. And then, just an absolute mess. But I'm like listening to our podcast being like, oh, watching it, knowing that they're already like eliminated, essentially just being like, oh, we do not sound we didn't have the crystal ball last week.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about kind of their last 2 pool games. So going into the halftime of their Fiji game, it was a closer match, and then Fiji kind of just pulled away. And then in their last game, it was just France.
All friends.
France did exactly what they did all tournament and just shoved it down their throats. But Derek, was there something that you saw in the last two games that really led to them not making the playoffs? And for me, it just didn't seem like there's any creativity with the ball.
Huh, they
Like
had the
I
ball.
can't, yeah, like possession wasn't there. But anytime I saw Karen Paquin run with the ball, it was like a diagonal line. Like she
Yeah.
just
Just
constantly was
and
just
hit
going
somebody.
diagonally and hit someone and hope that. And the other problem was that they were there would be a good line break and then no support, and the other team would turn over their ball because in sevens, it's as long as you got a good grip on it, you're probably going to turn the ball over. And
Yeah.
that was really, really disappointing to see is that constantly it looked like they were out of shape and like they were just not able to get to that breakdown to keep possession. Like possession was constantly being turned over. And it wasn't like, again, I'd have to look at the stats and I'll look them up right now while we're chatting, but like I didn't think that they had poor like ball handling ability. I just felt like it just seems that every time that they had a chance to move the ball forward, they turned it over because of the breakdown
Yeah.
or forward pass or
Well, I think that's part of the issues too. I think on defense though, like there was a lot of missed tackles in both the Fijian and the French game. Um honestly, I thought it was kind of tough to watch, and it was like I think I tweeted while it was happening that it was like I think the game against like just I mean we can get into the specifics of maybe what caused it if you want to go with like too many knock-ons, lack of solid tackling, the defense breaking down quickly. Um in like it's probably the two worst games I think I've ever seen the women's sevens team play.
yeah.
Um and I don't think that's like I don't necessarily think that's a ridiculous statement like it's I think it's kind of just what happened. Like it was bad. They played poorly, and yeah, like Fiji, Fiji kind of running in some tries that ended up being a great story for Fiji.
Oh
A
yeah.
team
Like
team that's not expected to go anywhere.
they were the
Probably
Argentina, like
yeah,
both bronze medals teams were like
we're great. Yeah,
were great. And to kind of give you some context about like, team like the ROC finished the tournament with a minus 88 point differential where Canada had a 47
yeah,
positive. Now, granted, ROC had to play one more game than
yeah.
Canada.
And our ROC just had to they made sure they didn't get the that extra -1 at the right time too.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of part of the thing is like I feel like as a whole, like both the men's and the women's team, like not really that great of on the Olympics. The men got to the quarterfinal, but it's like they're 1-5, right? Like they lost their next two
Yeah.
games.
Yeah.
One like it was a 1-5 tournament as a whole for them. The women's team, like the last two games, when you have medal hopes, I'm sure like that is what it is. But it's like for a team with medal hopes to not make the quarterfinals is very disappointing. Um, and yeah, man, it's just it's disappointing Olympics across the board, I think,
Yeah.
really. And um,
So another thing, and I kind of mentioned about strategy and some of the things that maybe we
yeah,
saw with some of the players, but another thing that I personally was kind of like shaking my head and scratching it and trying to figure out what was going on was some of the coaching selections to start games. Like, in the first game, Ghislaine Landry wasn't starting the match,
yeah,
and then, Bianca Ferrella wasn't starting against France.
yeah,
Bianca Ferrella is number 3 all time in tries, number 4 all time in tries
something.
on the seventh circuit. Why would you not have one of your best players starting at
God,
basically winning your in game? And then
yeah,
I might understand the whole point about Landry maybe needing rest, but that was the first game of the tournament. And also, as you can see, tries were super important, and it really wasn't until she came on that
mm,
Canada got their groove going against Brazil. So, you know, you can only blame so much on the coaching because you can see it on the pitch, it didn't
yeah,
matter.
yeah,
But that's just another kind of like level to this whole tournament where it's like, it didn't seem like anybody, including the coaching staff, were kind of on their game.
No, yeah, I would agree with that. I think with any coaching decision, especially from the point of view as podcast folk.
Oh yeah, especially we've got the power of hindsight on our side.
Yeah, exactly.
We've got all the power.
Any decision that a coach makes that doesn't work is probably bad. If it did work, it was great. So if you want to go with like, hey, did these lineup decisions work? No, they did not. So yeah, not the greatest decisions.
All right. Well, I appreciate your level-headedness because we're gonna need it in the next.
Yeah, exactly. Pete Carroll would have looked like a genius if that pass didn't get intercepted.
Oh boy.
You know, and it is what it is, right? Like,
as someone who
did I go with some deep cuts? Are you like a big Seahawks fan there? Did I go?
It's funny. Back then, I did not like the Seahawks, but I am now slowly turning into a Seahawks fan, which is really strange. At the end of their kind of dynasty run in the NFC West, I am now turning into a Seahawks.
Oh, now that they're not good.
Now that they're not good,
you are such a Leafs fan, man.
Leafs fan.
Now that they're not good is when you're gonna cheer for them, man.
Yeah, it's bad. It's I have a problem. I need to start cheering for like championship caliber teams. Before we get into the cardboard stuff, did you see
like the London Irish jersey you're wearing there?
Oh, this was a gift. Don't get me started on this. But did you see the All Blacks New Jersey?
The All Black, like the actual All Blacks, like the 15 aside.
Yeah, like they just released a New Jersey like today. And it's like one of like it's like the ocean plastic material, and it's
I haven't seen it.
And they did this really cool video. It was like them, the like some of the players from the Black Ferns 15s team and stuff like that. It was nice. Good video.
Oh, you're making me want to go look at this now.
I know.
You're trying to distract me from the inevitable conversation that we have to have.
Well,
I do appreciate that.
I
am a kit nerd, so I do want to look at this before I.
Well, you know what? You look at it while I kind of give some background on what we're about to start talking about.
Oh, I see it now. Hey, it's black. What do you know?
Yeah, I know. But they also have a white one too, apparently.
Yeah, that they almost never wear.
I know. They always play them against like Tonga or like Wales sometimes because they have a black kit too.
It looks. Oh, that's kind of cool. The video's going through like the history of the jersey and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
While he's geeking out, folks, let's. I'm going to give you a quick background.
It's a black jersey. Because I want to be involved in this conversation. Okay. But I mean, yeah, it's a black jersey.
Big ocean. Okay.
Yeah, it's a black. It's a solid black jersey. What do you know?
Yeah.
All right.
So, if you're listening to this podcast, the chances are you've already heard about what we're about to talk about. I think that it's safe to say that if you're a Rouge Rugby listener, you know about what happened with Jamie Cudmore, but we feel obligated that we need to talk about this because we are a Canadian rugby show. This is Canadian rugby news, and we've also
the biggest Canadian rugby news of probably the entire year.
Yeah, and you know what? We've also had Jamie on the show, and I feel like we have a part of the story to tell about this. So the night that Canada was kind of finishing up their tournament and their quarterfinal hopes were being kind of blown into the wind, Jamie Cudmore decided to go on to Twitter and tweet some things, which is not a good idea, and we will see why. He said LFG China after China won. Karma is a bitch.
Which, for the context, if you just to reiterate the context of the LFG China, is that Canada needed China to win by less than 18 or just outright lose, and China did not do that. They kind of blew out who was their opponent. Was it Japan at that it was Japan for that game?
Yeah.
So they kind of blew out Japan and handedly won, which almost all but eliminated Canada. If you followed me on Twitter during that, I was a mess. I completely multiple times screwed up the math on how good of a shot or what Canada's chances of actually getting the quarterfinals were. But if you needed the extra context on the LFG China, it's that they basically eliminated Canada.
Yeah. And then he said, Karma is a bitch. # survivor my ass. and then I think someone should decolonize ninth place tomorrow. So a range of offensive tweets were brought out. Rugby Canada then later released a statement that they were aware of the tweets and that they were going to be handling the situation. Um, and it was kind of just this ongoing effort to kind of silence this situation. Rugby
Mm.
Canada said, Rugby Canada stands with our women's sevens athletes. We support the team in their efforts both on and off the rugby pitch and are proud of the way they have represented our country. We are aware of the recent social media comments made about the team and work to ensure that they were removed as quickly as possible. Our organizational values include solidarity and respect, and everyone on our staff is expected to help create an inclusive environment for all. That is going to be a very important part about this discussion, folks, so please remember that. We condemn any inappropriate comments directed at the team, and our leadership will be meeting to discuss this matter immediately. So, after that happened, that was on the 30th at 12:26. So that was kind of released early in the morning.
Yeah, that
because, again, they
was.
needed to get in front of this before it got any
So
worse.
I guess he tweeted that after the games, after Canada was eliminated. Charity Williams posted the screenshot of his tweets, and then like when I woke up in the morning, I woke up to there was that one CBC reporter that was tweeting out the screenshots from Williams and the screenshots from Cudmore, which definitely helped that story blow up a lot. And like I think like that's part of it. Like this was one of the biggest. This was a widely followed like CBC thing for a bit.
And again, I didn't see anything like his tweets were deleted. I hadn't seen Charity Williams. My first
this is what everyone woke up
what Rugby Canada tweeted, and then I saw the things from that reporter. So
yeah, exactly. I think so a lot of people I think on Friday morning woke up to the Rugby Canada statement. Especially if you live on the East Coast. I think that was like the first thing that you would have seen when you wake up. And it just, oh man, this just completely escalated from there.
So Cudmore then tweeted out a very bare bones classic apology. I would like to apologize for the tweets posted last night. It was an emotional event for a good friend, which the majority of people are assuming is John Tate. But again, that is only conjecture. He didn't say outright who it was. I've always coached, and it was an emotional night for event for a good friend, and I let that get the better of me. I've always played and coached with my heart on my sleeve for this great country. I'm sorry if I offended anyone. So again, didn't talk about the athletes, didn't talk about the topics that he, brought up that were so offensive. He just kind of just bare boned. I'm sorry. So later that night, Rugby Canada announced the decision to remove Cudmore from his positions as the Pacifica Pride head coach and also the assistant coach and more direct the forwards coach with the national 15s men's team. Alan Vanson said, "We are taking this matter very seriously and concluded that immediate action must be taken, as well as the board chair, Sally Dennis, who, congrats, Sally, you're the new board chair. Here is the biggest firestorm that Rugby Canada's had to face in God knows how long. Rugby Canada's core values, including integrity and respect, must be exemplified in all of our rugby programs, and we are determined to promote a healthy and inclusive culture now and in the future." So that has.
Do we keep going with stuff that's still happening?
No, because I feel like we need to talk about kind of that all. So, a few days later, Cudmore released a much more apologetic message and vowed to better himself. So first, before we talk about the community itself and what has kind of happened with them and where is this leading Rugby Canada into the future, I want to know, seeing an assistant coach of the national team, Derek, and he's supposed to be leading the future of the men's rugby program. How does this make you feel? How do you feel seeing all this stuff?
Oh man, I'm kind of glad that we're recording this when we are, because I feel like if we recorded this on Saturday, it would have just been a lot of yelling. A lot of like it's
Yeah.
I don't know how you aren't if you are like I said, like as a fan, like if you're just not just like what is happening at Rugby Canada?
Yeah.
You know,
Why,
it's
as an assistant coach, would you go out of your way to not show your support
no, it's okay.
for another program?
I think
Like,
that's the big thing here is I think we have two different conversations that I think have been laid out in front of us. One is the actual content of Cudmore's tweets, and then the other one is the absolute tire fire that is Rugby Canada as an organization at the moment.
yeah,
Um, so Cudmore's tweets, I mean, you could probably I mean, obviously he's fired for saying the collection of them. You could probably pick any one of those
yeah.
as a
Like
standalone.
there's the actively cheering against
Yeah.
basically your employer to
Yeah,
fail.
that's part of it. Like
There's
it's
the tweet involving decolonization, which
yeah,
is in reference to the work that Rugby Canada has done with the All Child's Matter
yeah.
movement, and the atrocities that the Indigenous Canadian communities have been dealing with in the
Mhm.
past couple months. And then there's his tweet um about Survivors My Ass,
Yeah.
about the women's program dealing with kind
Mhm.
of the bullying situation with former coach John Tate and
Yeah. Mm,
friend of
man,
Jamie Cudmore. So, those are three different tweets that
yeah,
they all bring up their own different
own
situation that
different.
just
Yeah.
makes people want to shake their heads. And
It's yeah, it's mind blowing to see that
yeah,
he tweeted that in
and
all
it's really
honesty.
disappointing for me
Yeah,
because
it
again,
is.
when we had Jamie on the show, he was so amazing. He was so nice to us. He answered all of our questions. He was so approachable. And you know what? Jamie Cudmore could still be a great guy. Like, this could have just been in a moment of weakness, and he
I
he he dealt with the consequences
I
of his
think
actions.
yeah,
But
I think that's the thing though, is no matter what, like the tweets are unacceptable no
unacceptable.
matter how you wanna paint like
Anybody
the
in a leadership
background.
position needs to know
Yeah,
that.
like
And if
it's
this isn't his first rodeo, this isn't his first coaching position. That was something that makes this even more disappointing for me because his coaching future was so bright, and he ruined it.
no, yeah. Oh, yeah, no, it's gone. It's like you said, like, no, like as big of a fan as anyone could be, man. Like they're unacceptable tweets.
Yeah,
Like it's the end. The
and
like
we got it.
I
And
feel like that's kind of like that's what I'm saying. I think there's two discussions, right? One is the content of the tweets, which, like you said, is unacceptable. I mean, even like Thunder Rugby and Iroquois Roots Rugby had like felt compelled to put out statements following what he said. You know, it's horrible. And I think the second conversation, and like I don't even know how to preface this other than like what the hell is happening at Rugby Canada?
yeah, and
Like,
sorry,
because
I just want to say one more thing about
sure,
the Cudmore situation is,
sure,
and it really bothers me that he went out of his way to vindictively bring up the decolonization tweet when his co-coach, the guy that he's been starting to lean on in the Pacific Pride Academy, is an proud indigenous man who is running an indigenous rugby program in their
mm,
backyard. Like, Phil Mack is
yeah.
standing right next to him. How do you think that that's okay? How do you think that that's something that you can tweet out there? And you know what? Again, we don't know what type of mindset he was in. We don't know what the situation led to there. So we got to
It's
move on
it,
from that.
in all honesty, though, it doesn't matter. That's the tweets coming from the coach account,
Yeah.
right? And it's like,
So
you know,
you're right,
but
Derek.
it's
This has kind of
no one was surprised at the outcome by the end of the day.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
and the majority of support from fans has been mostly saying, yeah, he probably should have been fired. There are some
yeah,
vocal minority that say he's a good guy. He's done a lot for rugby. He made a mistake. Like, this shouldn't be firing. But here's the thing: those can be two things. Jamie Cudmore could be a great guy, has done a lot for the rugby community, and made a huge mistake and a flaw in judgment. And who's to say he's not going to do this again? Right? So
I've,
Rugby Canada needed to make that decision and go, can we have him on board knowing that he made these comments about the women's team? how can the women or the future, if my daughter decides in the next, she's 2.5, so Jamie Cudmore might not be part of the program, you know 20 years from now. But 20 years from now, if Cudmore stayed there and Elliot, my daughter, gets good enough to become a sevens player, as a father, I cannot imagine knowing that there are coaches at the program actively cheering against my daughter and her teammates to lose.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a good culture to
I think,
set up. And
well,
and Rugby
so
Canada,
let's
their hand
talk
was
about
was
that.
was yeah. So
Yeah. So let's talk about that, because I think that's the other conversation that needs to be had is, as I said, what the hell's happening at Rugby Canada?
and it's
And
yeah, and that's the thing, right? Is people are now coming out of the woodwork
it's
defending John Tate,
mhm,
calling out Rugby Canada
yeah.
about
Oh, it's a mess.
their leadership
It's
structure.
it's
It
an
is a mess. We've
absolute
had, we've had
and
Jen Kish come out and release a statement after Rugby Canada finishing the tournament, accusing former members and mostly leadership of bullying and forcing their agenda on the rest of the team. And I'm going to read the full statement. Um,
yeah, read what Jen Kish
there
had
are
to say,
players on the current
and then
Olympic
I'll
sevens.
kind of jump in
Yeah.
after you read what Jen Kish had to say.
Okay. There are players on the current Olympics women's rugby sevens team who have contributed to the very same environment they have gone public with regards to John Tate. There is a false sense of solidarity and unity within the women's program. There are players in the program who have used their position to push their agenda by intimidating and bullying other players to a very frightening extreme point, which is why I made my decision to speak out. There are stories that have not been told, voices that have not been heard, and it's my job as a rugby ambassador to truly protect the goals and dreams of Canada's young female rugby players. As it's not my place to tell the stories of those who've been victimized by their peers, I do encourage those in the program to speak up and advocate for your teammates so all can feel safe to have their own opinions, freedoms, and safety to be who they are, because that is what rugby's about. And then to add even more layers of what the hell is going on, you've got former member of the sevens program, won gold medal with the Pan Am Games in Toronto, rugby legend Nagali Harvey kind of even come into the and say, tell me you want to stir stuff up without telling me you want to stir stuff up. And Jen said, you don't know what I know. And Harvey said, you're right, I don't. Neither does anyone who has read your post. I feel like I'm just read the teaser of a book trying to sell. I'm 100% for standing up to bullies. Perhaps transparency and being solution focused would be better than the vague accusatory statements likely to divide. Jen Kish has then since gone forward and kind of said that she plans on making further statements and
Yeah.
and calling certain people out. She even went as far as doing this subtweet, bullies, I know you're who you are and you're right. It is time for change. So everything is kind of just crumbling around the sevens team. That was the former captain, the captain that led them to the bronze medal in 2016. She is a legend within that program, saying that there are leaders in that current program that are creating a toxic environment as well. So,
and then James Pritchard, so Canada's men's all-time leading scorer, he quote tweeted Jen Kish too, and made the absolute understatement of the year, which was Rugby Canada seems to be imploding, 2 exclamation marks. And that is probably the most accurate thing that has been said during this entire time. Because this has been what it is. We've been watching Rugby Canada
and
implode.
People are trying to make this like a fight between,
dude.
You're either on the sevens team side, man, or you're with John Tate. And you know what, guys?
That's what's happening, though. That's honestly like that. It's 100%. It's, I think there's a lot of this that like you said, it's like the report hasn't come out. The report hasn't come out publicly, right? So it's
all is he shits.
Yeah, exactly. It's incredibly difficult for people outside of Rugby Canada to make judgments and determinations on, at least like from what I definitely feel like I do not have enough information to make a proper judgment on what happened. But it is very clear that within Rugby Canada and the greater rugby community, that there's a massive, massive divide based around what happened between the handling of the John Tate and the women's sevens team situation. And it has now got to the point of just absolutely boiling over. And Rugby Canada as an organization as a whole looks like an absolute tire fire. And, because and I think that's the whole kind of thing too, is, earlier this year you had, you know, the initial complaint, I think, or the initial public complaint, I think, came in early February 5th, when they released that they were calling upon an independent investigator to look into these complaints. John Tate, and that wasn't named. Alan Vanson was quoted by saying, "Feel free to draw your own conclusions about who the complaint was about," which, never tell people to feel free to draw their own conclusions. That's always just a terrible idea. But April 26th comes around. John Tate has to resign. He gets, despite the fact that the investigation didn't, I guess, find any wrongdoing. So he was, I guess, cleared of whatever he was initially said. But Rugby Canada did make the promise too that they were going to update or change their policies regarding.
So I think that's something that people need to. I'm going to interrupt you, Derek, because this is an important piece of the story. The complaints that the women made, based on the rules and the policies that were in place when they made the complaints, because it was the complaints were based on what, 2018, 2017.
I think it was earlier than that, to be honest.
It was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I think it's even earlier.
So these policies were made in 2013. They got updated.
Yeah,
right after this report found nothing happened, they changed the policy. Yeah. So obviously Rugby Canada has shown that they realized that something there wasn't right. Alan Vanson went out of his way to say, when he was interviewed, we were surprised, frankly, when the players voiced their concerns and from what he saw in the report. So
I don't know.
We have no idea what happened. Exactly. What everybody is saying is they're either going off of what they've heard or what very biased people are saying. Like John Tate himself thinks that he's innocent. Of course, John Tate thinks he's innocent because he wants to coach again in rugby. He's going to say that.
I think that's the thing though, and that's I do kind of want to avoid any speculation and stuff while we're having this discussion.
Yeah, of course.
Because I think that's the thing though, so that's what happened there. There's a couple statements. So then a couple of days later, the statement that was signed by 37 members of the team, both current and present, or current and past, was signed and put up on Twitter. Interesting, given who's been tweeting out Jen Kish's name, not on that, not amongst the 37. So that is, I think, a noteworthy piece of information now. But and then you have later, there's an article on May 4th where Tate says that he would be okay with the article coming out in public, and it's brutal. I just don't know what's going on with how bad does the leadership, and I don't necessarily mean coaches, I mean Alan Vanson, the executives above, the non-rugby executives, the people that run Rugby Canada, how bad does the leadership of the whole organization have to be to let this situation get to the point where we're now completely publicly aware that, one, the Rugby Canada teams do not cheer for each other. In fact, they're probably at least what Cudmore has illustrated, they act at least actively cheering against the other teams, which is a terrible look to begin with. The visuals now that we have is that Rugby Canada obviously has a massive divide upon what happened. So now between John Tate and the women's sevens team, so now you have Rugby Canada staff actively cheering against Rugby Canada teams. And after that, you have Rugby Canada staff taking shots at other Rugby Canada staff. You have former players chiming in. You have other former players taking shots back at them. You have other different former players, lending their support. Right. It's a mess. It's an absolute mess. It's absolute, just a complete, like I said, I don't even know what to say, man. It's like a tire fire. I think in all honesty, I'm going to say that I am absolutely not a lawyer. I have almost no knowledge of law, none.
What?
Um, I have, I like from a legal standpoint, I don't understand why they can't make the report public. I'll admit that I don't know enough about law to fully understand. I don't fully understand the legalities. I'm not going to pretend to fully understand the legalities of it, but man, you have to find a way to release that report.
Yeah.
It has to be because
It's so naive.
it,
It's so naive to think that
it's
Rugby Canada kind of just went, okay, well, this is settled now. John Tate has resigned. Go about your business.
yeah, like it's
He's
not,
it's
especially and now we're
because what he's going to go back to his
sitting
rugby
at,
club and people are going to ask him questions. And
oh yeah, dude,
social media exists, Rugby Canada. This isn't 1995.
hey man,
Stop living back in those days
you
where
can
you were a good rugby team.
you can go on Reddit, you can go on Instagram comments, you can go on Twitter comments, you can see
Facebook,
Facebook everywhere of like everybody's putting the theories out, right? And it's like you can side with the theories, and there are a lot of comments that are meshing a little bit, right? That are meshing, but it's like I think you kind of slightly touched on the point there, Dan, where it was like I don't want I want to hear the non-biased third
exactly.
party give me the facts of what happened, because I think now we are at the point Rugby Canada is probably going to have I don't even know what. Like how do you recover from this? I have no idea. You're probably going to have to restart the whole organization. Like you're going to have to like restart it from the ground up.
I mean, the nice thing, I mean,
it's an
if
abomination.
you look at I know. If you look at the women's program right now, they've got a lot of older players in it. You know, some of their leadership team are older, so naturally that's going to do it themselves. But you've still got young players part of that program that are going to continue their
teams, Dan. I meant restart Rugby Canada, like the whole thing, because it's already imploded.
They don't have the money to start this.
Of course they don't. Of course they don't. Of course, but you like on it like.
And here's the other problem that Rugby Canada does. Like even with like
the teams,
the caterpillar effect is going to be felt. Where are you going to find these coaches? Where are you going to find these rugby people? Right? Like
I don't know.
Where do you find them?
It's like I think that, but I don't know. But it's like the thing is what I want to know as a fan. And I mean, we do this podcast, and I mean, we sometimes hear more things than the average fan might have heard. But it's like, as a fan, which is ultimately, I feel what we still are, Dan. It's just at the heart of it, we're fans. And,
hell yeah,
right. And it's like we don't get paid, like. And I'm just like, if the thing that I like love enough to want to start a podcast to dedicate, like, if they're gonna to dedicate the time to it, writing articles, doing podcasts, because this stuff can be time consuming sometimes. And it's like I love the game of rugby. I love Canada. I love rugby in Canada. There's nothing more that I would want to see Rugby Canada succeed. But I feel like as a fan, if Rugby Canada is going to self-destruct, if Rugby Canada is going to implode, and they're going to have what appears to be, in all honesty, like what appears to be a civil war within the organization.
Yeah.
That's going to lead to, one, teams not being able to perform on the pitch, because clearly that's already happened. Right.
Ghislaine Landry talked about that.
Yeah.
That
it's but it's not even that. It's like the women's 7 team didn't play well. The men's 7s team quarterfinals, but I mean, they were 1-5, right? The men's 15 team, we've talked about it. They got a tough road to the World Cup. What happens if they don't make the World Cup? Like,
where's that money going to go?
Yeah, exactly. It's gone, man. Like, there's gonna what happens? And I think my point what I'm trying to is like, in all honesty, like I think as a fan, like I said, I want to see facts. If Rugby Canada is going to go to a civil war and destroy and the organization is going to self-destruct and it's going to implode on itself, I want to know why.
Yeah.
right now.
Don't keep us in the
I,
dark anymore, because
yeah,
it's not
like,
it,
and,
it hasn't served you
it
well.
hasn't. Yeah, exactly. And it's, you know what I mean. Like, I want to know why. And like I said, I want an unbiased
Yeah.
opinion, or not even an opinion. Sorry, I shouldn't have said opinion. I want the unbiased facts. I want to see what that report was. I want to even see the report on the thought process that Rugby Canada took, that they thought, hey, after seeing the report, we need to amend the policies,
Yeah, exactly.
right? Like, see
That's
that
what
full
bothers me so much.
transparency, full
Transparency.
because like, this isn't get like, what are we gonna do? Like that one Twitter comment from, from Jen Kish, where she's saying that, she'll make another more direct statement. Like, are we just sitting here waiting for that? Like, waiting for her to call out
Yeah.
players by name?
Yeah.
Right. And then what? Next week we have the same conversation talking about the players, and then, like, hey, like, if those players that she call, if it ends up happening that she does that or whatever, it's like, I would say I hope those individual players played well, because then they're going to get ripped on. But nobody played well, so they're going to get ripped on.
Yeah.
Right. And
See, for
it's just going to get
worse.
it's going to get worse and worse. And in all honesty, like, I I do not see how this gets better with the current setup that
That they
Rugby
have.
Canada is in.
Well, let me tell you, Derek, and I'm looking this from a perspective of, I haven't spent a whole lot of time with my local rugby club. We when we first started this podcast, we covered my adventures back into club rugby. Me spraining my ankle twice and missing out my 1 week of eligibility. But I've kept close with certain members of my rugby community, and I'm not gonna lie to you. Before all of this, and for a long time, the relationship with Rugby Canada has not been good with
No, like,
day to
well,
day rugby play,
yeah,
day to day rugby players. And yeah, I want to kind of get into this a little bit.
okay,
Not We're not going to talk about it long, but a lot of it is based on what you talk about, transparency. Why are you charging your athletes so much? Why are we not relying on sponsors more for um the national team, to see my money that I pay to play rugby go to a team that's getting absolutely slammed every time they play? It does not sit well for me. And personally, as I don't feel that way. Whatever. Um, but for me, this is constantly going to be a problem, and all the other nations in rugby don't care because they're successful. Like the European teams, all
yeah,
the tier one teams don't care because their teams, COVID except, make enough money for the program to run. But tier two countries, the contempt is building because the success on the field isn't showing up. My cost of living is going up, and if I want to support my club and play rugby, a good chunk of my dues is going to Rugby Canada, and there's no transparency in how all this works. I'm sure if they've released certain releases about this, and again, this is not my view. This is some of the guys that I've talked with. Um, Add on to the fact that now we are having all of this turmoil with coaching and and no transparency in terms of what happened with Tate, and now it's just kind of this weird situation with Cudmore. It doesn't bode well for those fans that are already so enrooted into the local rugby scenes, to see that the national level is just absolutely like a fish out of water, flopping around, hoping that no one's going to notice it. It
yeah,
is so bad. It's such a bad look. And you know what? Guys that are kind of coming just as fans of like Rugby Canada or the Arrows, it might not bother them as much because they're not as so closely involved with kind of some of the communities. There are people out west that have had direct relationships with people from the Sevens team, with John Tate,
oh,
with Jamie Cudmore,
there's people
and
across
this
the
is
country that have
affecting
played
them
with them.
personally, right? But
Yeah,
for us, that's not the case. it's not a good look as an organization to have so much turmoil, and it's not a good look for all those loyal fans that have spent their hard-earned money to support you to not be transparent. And I
Yeah.
think that's really the last thing we can say about this
Yeah.
because
I think I'm actually looking at Twitter right now. There's people having conversations about the exact same thing where it's just like, I think, like I said, if Rugby Canada is going to have, be constantly imploding on each other, having players, staff, fans divided, taking shots at each other, I want to know what it is that it's about, and I want to know exactly what it is that it's about. And I think like Alan Vanson, there was that article in the Globe and Mail by Nathan Vanderclip, where Alan Vanson kind of reiterated again that they don't want to release the report. And honestly, if the longer that report is locked up, I think the worse and worse and worse the situation is going to be. And at some point, someone will say something and it'll get out anyways. So control the way it comes out if you're Rugby
yeah.
Canada, and release it and let everyone, because it's like, hold on, I want to find the actual quote that
While
Alan.
you're looking this up, I want to say something fun. Uh, eh, Jim Stewart Allen, rugby's broccoli boy. He just followed the Rouge Rugby account.
Oh, I
So,
saw that. Yeah.
so Jim, thank you. Keep dancing. Keep those broccoli crisp. You know, one of the great fans of MLR. Great to see. So we're thanks for following us on
All
this.
right. So in yeah, thanks. Oh, in the sorry, I would be much more excited about broccoli if I wasn't in the mood of like we had to talk about this, Dan.
Yeah.
But all right, so I got the quote. Again, this is Nathan Vanderclip's article in the Globe and Mail dated August 1st, 2021. Alan Vanson quoted. So the lead up is Vanderclip writes the organization has no plans to do so in regards to releasing the report. And then Vanderclip's writing is it would not be fair to, and then he begins quoting Alan Vanson, the players or the respondent, in this case, John, to release that information. End quote. So Vanderclip writing again, he said, it wouldn't be helpful to have, starting new quote, thousands of people read that and make their own determination. And I honestly look at that and be like, it wouldn't be helpful to have thousands of people read the facts about a situation that we're already fighting about.
Yeah, and
It makes
the
me shake
thing that
my head.
he's worried about is that's what they're doing anyways with even less
Oh,
information.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, exactly. So now exactly, you have the people that want to support the sevens team making their own conclusions and saying their support that way. You have people that want to support Tate making their conclusions and supporting that way. Somebody puts an Instagram post that has the support for Tate. It gets shared by people. It gets shared. Someone puts something else that gets the sevens team. It gets shared. Everybody's mad at each other. Everybody's fighting. Chaos, and probably on-field losses are to follow. I don't.
Yeah.
Because it's like it is one of those things, man. It's like organizational culture does start from the top and kind of trickles down to everything.
Yeah.
And in all honesty, seeing the way Rugby Canada has handled this, again, as a fan, I look at him like, no wonder we lose.
Yeah. No wonder
It's no wonder we lose.
No wonder since 2015 everything has been mishandled.
Yeah, no wonder.
Player management, player development.
Oh man,
odd choices for matchups with other nations. Like
everything
makes sense.
Everything weird voting at the election.
Yeah.
Why did that seem to anger a lot of people?
Oh my god!
Oh, did I just remind you of something?
Yeah, Rugby Canada basically ruining a perfect tournament.
Did I?
Yeah, thanks, buddy.
Exactly.
You know what? Listen, I'm done. I'm done talking about this. All I want to say is to the women's sevens team. I'm sorry that your tournament turned out like this. Just like Landry said that, this wasn't a distraction, but it definitely was a toll. I personally don't know what the difference is in
I have
that
no,
case.
yeah, no, it's
But
just like, yeah,
obviously, it was affecting them, and you know what? And then to have a
and
coach then do this to you,
but
you know,
that's yeah, but that's the whole point though. Is they played poorly. Another coach mocked them for it, and I want to know why.
yeah.
I want to know why.
This is
So
a message to the women's team. Thank you for representing Canada. Thank you for being brave enough to still choose to support those who are in a horrible situation, whether it be people of color within the rugby community and all across Canada, and also the Indigenous people who are suffering in Canada. So thank you for choosing to support them and use your spotlight to do that. We really appreciate that, and you represent Canada with pride, and we can't ask for much more than that. You know, pre Olympic, you know, goals aside of winning a gold medal, you still represented Canada, and we thank you for doing that.
ah,
That's really all I can say about that. Derek, let's move on because we've got.
oh yeah, you want to move on to some fun rugby?
There was something
Hey,
fun.
crazy concept? Rugby's supposed to be fun. I forgot what
Yeah,
it felt like.
yeah.
Um,
There was
apparently,
a
I
MLR
have no idea. I
final.
forgot what that felt like. So,
So there was a MLR final this weekend. The LA Giltinis defeated Rugby ATL to become the second team to win an MLR championship after Seattle went back to back,
mm,
winning 31-17. You look at the statistics, and I mean, if you look at possession, LA had a 10%
mhm.
difference. Same with the territory. Tackles, Rugby ATL made, a little bit more than 10 more tackles, 101 to not 119. Um, Lineouts were pretty even. Penalties conceded. Rugby ATL only had one more penalty. But you look at the big things, it was the carrying meters, the line breaks, 7 line breaks for LA to 1 for Rugby ATL. And the carrying meters, they had like almost 200 more meters carried. And they kicked a lot more. Um, my question to you is, was this game won by LA or lost by Rugby ATL? Because in my opinion,
Oh
LA played a great game.
yeah,
Like Nat Gitto, pure class. That was a fantastic game of fly half. The whole back line did really, really well. And the scrum really showed up at certain points in the game as well for LA. I just felt like this was not the Rugby ATL team that we have seen
I
for the majority of the year. I feel like
interesting.
defense, their tackling wasn't great. Um, I mean, I don't have they on the
Uh,
MLR app. They don't show me the
the
tackling
percentage was
percentages.
89%. Both teams were 89%.
Okay.
So
Um,
I mean, Atlanta's had games where they're hitting like 94, 95
yeah. And they
sometimes.
what did they
Not
have to
bad.
do when they beat LA? They were close to 100% with tackles, right? Like they were
Oh
super
no, no,
high.
no, no, close to 100. No, they were probably like low 90s, like 93. They just made a
Okay.
lot. They made a
They
lot
made
of
a lot of
tackles.
tackles, right? Okay.
Like they made
I don't
like
know.
an ungodly amount of tackles.
Yeah.
But it was also because kind of like the possession and territory in this game, they never had the ball in that game either.
Yeah.
But
But like the big thing was like what they did when they had the ball. Like I felt like I was constantly watching Kurt Coleman and Batista Esquera kick the ball away. Like he was
yeah.
just kick,
Well, I
kick,
think
and hoping for something for a turnover in the air or
mm,
a mistake from the back line from LA. They kicked a lot to Johnny Ryberg, which
that didn't work.
didn't work. And that was a
Although
fair strategy. He kind of has some
in
problems with the
all
high ball.
honesty, I think teams do that a lot.
Most teams do. Yeah, they
Do
just
it
know
might be
Johnny
because
Ryberg.
it's maybe like I don't think Ryberg's necessarily poor under high balls, but maybe it's just a lesser of two evils between him or DTH on the other side.
Or
Him,
Glenn Bryce or Luke Burton or whoever they're going to throw
whoever it is.
at fullback.
But yeah, teams seem to do that. Um, to be honest, I think I disagree with you on this, Dan. I think this is definitely LA's game to win. I think LA played the quintessential. I think they played an LA game, and I think the one thing is like we kind of talked about it before, how it's LA had one of the league's best offenses and Atlanta had one of the league's best defenses. And it's going head to head, that offense versus defense matchup. The one interesting thing, though, and that I think does also kind of come into play here, is LA's defense is a lot better than Atlanta's offense.
Yeah.
LA on right, and and I think LA's attack, like you look at the way the tries got scored, Atlanta did a great job of breaking down that rugby ATL, because early in the game, I thought rugby ATL got off to a great start defensively. They had that one early penalty where Giddo and the Giltinis decided to kick for the corner instead of a relatively easy straight on penalty kick. They went to the corner and rugby ATL dismantled that line out and the ensuing maul and pushed LA into touch and got the ball back, and then they cleared. And I thought early in the game too, the rush defense from Atlanta, they were coming up, they were making hits behind the gain line. Excuse me, LA was going backwards, and there was a lot. And then John Ryberg decided to fly in off of his wing, and Matt Giddo hit him with a nice inside ball. And that's part of the way LA plays, right? That rush defense works because there's an extra guy in that attacking line. And as soon as Ryberg broke through that, there's no one there, right? And Ryberg takes off and he scores the opening try of the game. And 3 minutes later, I remember, I think, Dan, I think you brought it up earlier in the earlier in a previous podcast somewhere in the middle of the season. We're talking about how to beat LA's defense, and I think you referenced a play where Toronto kicked over it, right? And LA, I don't know, and other teams have done that, right? And it was like, and then this, within 3 minutes, Matt Giddo's like, I'm going to chip this over the line. If these guys are going to fly up like that, put it over the line. Adam Ashley Cooper runs in, he regathers. Unreal run, a little bit.
Honestly, when you think about that Mieres, I believe it was either Leivas or Mieres who scores that try in the second half of the Fire and Ice Cup. That Adams kicked it, Lesage gets it, passes out to the wing.
Play. It was the same
literally
play.
The exact same
play. It was the same play. They did the exact same play. They watched, they did the same play. Right. And it gets through. Adam Ashley Cooper has a bit of a fend, little offload. Ryberg had to
he's got Kirk Coleman.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Ryberg had to run over a couple dudes to make this one happen. Man, Ryberg's fun. I do.
Oh my God, I love it.
I enjoy some John Ryberg when he gets the ball.
It's like you look at him and you're like, oh, okay, so that's a loose head. And you see him run, it's like, that's not a loose head. Oh my God.
Ryberg's fun. Ryberg's fun, man. And so it's like they kind of had that, and they opened up that rugby ATL defense. Later in the second half, the same thing, man. It's like just, oh my God, the hands on LA sometimes. The back line, honestly, just watching it just go Giddo, Meeks, Adam Ashley Cooper, DTH. I'm just like just the flawlessness that the ball can move down that LA line. To DTH. So nice to see the Canadians getting on the board in the MLR final. DTH probably been one of, if not the best winger in the league this year. Now he had 10 tries in the regular season. He added one in the playoffs here. And just amazing. He again played incredibly well in this game. He was great under the high ball.
And he said he's back. He's back for next season.
Yeah, he's back.
Which is even so good.
Love it.
So excited.
Love it. Yeah, if he's not too busy in Vegas, there's a tournament you could play in the fall. Depending on how, I don't know. Maybe Vegas looks like fun right now.
Oh, you're talking. Oh,
did
you see like the three of them? Did you see the three of them?
Michael Jordan can come out of retirement, right? Or like who else is Mario Lemieux? Who else has come out of retirement?
Did you see Gitto, Adam Ashley Cooper, and I think it was Billy Meeks dressing up as like the Avatar, like blue Avatar guys?
No, I did not see.
Oh yeah, go to Billy Meeks' Instagram account. I think they're probably going to go to the Blue Man Group, and that's why they're doing it. But like, yeah, it's terrifying. They even have like contacts in.
Oh man, I got to see this. Is it a story or a post? Oh my God. That's amazing.
Yeah. You listen, I
Wow.
really enjoyed it. I think that Poitevin was just an absolute
Man, I
animal.
I kinda wish I was on the Giltinis right now for nothing, for no contribution to the game, but just to
Just a
be able to be at
party.
this
Yeah.
party in Las Vegas right now.
Yeah, like guys that stuck out to me, Poitevin played really well. Luke Burton was really good
Mhm.
too at 15. Not his like natural position, but
Oh, this
he
guy's
fit.
dressed up as Power Rangers too.
Oh man, okay, I gotta look at this later. We'll look at it later.
I was gonna say
Um,
the stories are oh man. What it
you
must
know,
feel like to win, internet what it must feel like to win a championship.
I love myself a good scrum domination. And I mentioned it, and rugby ATL scrum's been so good. And you know what? It's too bad. Connor Keys had a good game too. I think that
Hunter Keys did have a really good game. He
he's
came
at. You know what?
I thought he maybe came
We're
off
gonna
a little
bringing
bit
up
early, but
awards next week. So we'll talk about him next week. But he had a good game.
yeah, I thought he played.
Heaton tried. He tried his damnedest to try to make things happen offensively, but it's so hard. It's so hard when you're behind like that, and then
Yeah.
you try to make big pressure plays, and it seems like the rest of the guys aren't around to help you. And Matt Heaton is a great rugby player, but he's not really known for offensive plays.
No, but
He's
he was unreal in this game, man.
yeah,
He led rugby ATL in tackles with 13, which I mean is never really a surprise.
yeah,
Massive work rate, got around the pitch a lot. In all honesty, from a Canadian rugby perspective, like the Canadians did very well in this
yeah.
game.
Corey
Um,
Thomas did well in the
yeah,
line
Corey
out, and
Thomas did
and he had
well.
a couple of good strong carries.
Corey Thomas probably ran into Matt Heaton a lot because it appears that they were at almost every single ruck. So I would imagine had a couple collisions there.
Yeah, him
Um,
playing
Corey,
eight and
so LA had 3 breakdown steals. 2 of them were by Canadians for the work in the breakdown. So Thomas got one, DTH got one.
one.
Nathan Den Hoyt got the other one. Um, like it's so I mean, yeah, like as a Canadian fan, like it was
Yeah,
cool to see the Canadian players show up for this game and
yeah.
really make an impact. Um,
Corey Thomas at 8 is an interesting prospect because if Ardron's not available,
if you can do it, it looks like you can do it.
I'm not opposed to like I didn't really
He played,
see anything
he
from
played well, man.
Hikilani that said, keep him in at 8, 8
I
for
think I
the
think
qualifiers.
I think I like
I think
Thomas better as a lock, but I mean, given their situation with Adam Ash being out, that this worked well for LA.
and like as another threat for the lineup for Canada.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, and that gave
That's
LA.
like you look at like
I
what
think
the
that's
Lions,
cool
you
because
look at what the Springboks are doing,
yeah,
having like
I
basically 3
think
locks in their starting lineup. Like
yeah, I think that's a good point there because I think that really helped because rugby ATL, like their bread and butter is that set piece, and like they can smash people with it, and that's I did find it quite interesting looking at like the tries in the first half, like coming out of the half, it was like, oh, the 2 LA tries are just insane offensive plays with highlight reel offense, right? The inside ball, huge line break, the chip kick, right? And then rugby ATL's try is kick it to the corner and we're just gonna mash you over the line. Which I thought was kind of fun. It was kind of like both teams. I thought both teams played their style, and it was just like, well, LA came out on top this time. Um, so I mean, I thought from that point, I thought it was a great game, and man, it's the season's done. It's kind of sad. Celebration looked bananas after.
yeah, and there's I mean, what do you mean
I was
looked?
gonna say
It's
you
still happening. It's
Yeah,
still
I know
happening.
it still looks nuts. I saw the bus once I started seeing like the pictures. It's like, oh, the bus to Vegas. I'm like, oh boy,
Yeah, I saw plane tickets. I'm like,
oh boy, yeah. There's gonna be a
all right. Well, how did you feel about the broadcast as a whole?
loved it.
How the venue looked, the production quality. To me, the broadcast looked good. The stadium looked great. They had about 7,000 fans, which is. I was saying this to my wife. She's like, "How many people are there?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And then she's like how loud they were.
Oh my
It
god, the crowd
sounded
was
like there was a lot of people, but that stadium does not do you any favors.
yeah,
Like that at like any other venue that it would the venue it would have been sold out. It would have been a sold out game.
oh yeah.
But
No,
the
oh yeah, yeah.
it lends so
It will
well to
it
TV
ends
in
up
terms of
being
its setup because of the fact that it's a famous coliseum. Tons of broadcasts have been done there, so
yeah,
I
like
think it
I think
looked great.
the broadcast looked amazing. The crowd, man, at times was super loud. The rugby
Wild.
ATL fans, I don't know how many went down, but shout out to them because you could legit hear like the rugby ATL
Yeah.
chants at different points during the game. Um, yeah, so I guess what? It's the biggest crowd that the MLRs had. Did it hit that record? Um, Certainly the
Yeah, I
biggest
don't remember
the
what was
biggest
at
in yeah.
Torero in the
Yeah.
2019 final.
But either way, man, it's great to see that insane crowd. Um, yeah, like I was kind of and I think, you know, good on the Giltinis too for I think like the strategic way that they must have sold tickets to that game because when you looked at it from the camera angle that was showing it, it's like I know that this is an 80,000 seat stadium, but it looked full from the main
Yeah,
camera angle.
they did pretty well.
They did a good job of like, I know there's only like what it was, it's 7,500 people.
Something like that.
Yeah, like I know there's only 7,500 people in an 80,000 seat stadium. But it looked good on TV. It was loud. Um, especially like the LA tries, those were like legit like eruptions. Which was awesome to see. I'm sure the Steve Aoki concert at halftime was cool.
Yeah.
The broadcast didn't really show any of that. So I guess we're not at the NFL
Well,
point.
no, because it happened after the game.
I thought it happened at halftime.
No, because like
Did it happen
that's
at
what I
both?
thought
I
too.
feel like
But
was it both? Maybe they did both.
maybe they did both. I don't know. It didn't seem like it was at. Anyways,
I thought Power High Tower referenced that there was a halftime show, but they didn't actually show it during the broadcast.
yeah, no, I think, and that because they said, "Well, throw it to the halftime show," and the halftime show was the recap.
Oh, is that maybe?
That's exactly. That's what I think.
Well,
The
either way,
confusion was.
I'm sure the crowd had fun.
Well, I want to talk about that quickly because it's actually really smart because so they were selling tickets for like $5, $10, whatever.
Yeah.
And Corey Mumson from Earful of Dirt, he's one of the editors there, brought up a great point that like if I'm living in LA and I'm looking for something to do on a Sunday and I hear there's a Steve Aoki concert and it's $10. Oh, and there's like a
$5.
rugby game before it.
$5.
$5? Hell yeah, I'll go to this game. I'll have some drinks, get some food, watch a rugby game, whatever that is. That sounds sweet. I can see Steve Aoki after. And then they partied with like the team was in the whole thing too. So it's like, that was a sweet little deal. If you tell me that, like,
well, yeah, I think you know what I never
sound like a great idea.
I agree. Like I never really thought of that, but yeah, like at the bare minimum, if you're trying to market that in LA, yeah, it's a Steve Aoki concert for $5. Where else are you going to get that?
Yeah.
Right. Like it's so yeah, that is pretty cool. I thought it was cool too. Like I'm not a huge Steve Aoki fan, so I wasn't like freaking out and being super excited about it. But I recognize that he is very famous, and there is a lot of people that do enjoy his music.
Yeah.
So, but I was like, I saw like, yeah, like he put like Instagram posts and tweets about Major League Rugby up on his feed and stuff, right? So it's like
he's a huge sports fan too. Like I know he's a big Kings fan.
Oh,
so,
is he? That's cool.
Yeah, he's a huge hockey fan. So
oh, is he? I didn't know that. So like, yeah, but that's cool though, right? Because it's like now you have like how many? I want to see how many Instagram followers does he have?
Yeah,
I just want to check right now.
Well, I want you to ponder on this question while you're doing that because I want to talk about one more thing before we finish this over.
He has 9.2 million followers on Instagram. And yeah, tweeted like a bunch tweeted or instead like pictures of like the LA Giltinis and stuff up on his thing. So that's cool. It helps with the reach. I wonder if people did that though. I wonder if there's a lot of people in that crowd that have like never been to a rugby game before and were there for a $5 Steve Aoki concert.
I mean, like it or not, part of what the Toronto Wolfpack did with giving away either free or cheap tickets is that they pulled people in for free or cheap, and then they had a party there afterwards.
Yeah, I still think free is bad.
Yes, and you talked about the WWE. Yes.
Yeah, I still think free is bad. At least, hey, $5. At least you're paying something to get into the gate. Right. But
okay,
the Wolfpack never had a Steve Aoki concert at halftime. It's
no, but like
different level of entertainment.
It's a comparable example. and we're gonna move on because how does this final compare to the other two finals for you? Um, and for me, I think it's fun in its own way that like it just felt like a masterclass performance by LA, and this was it was a set like the story's different. Like my favorite final will always be the 2019 final just because of how that game ended. It was so wild. But for me watching this game, it was like, this is Adam Ashley Cooper's last game. Maybe Gidow's last game. At the time before he announced it, this might have been DTH's last game. This is one of those teams that it's not going to be together next year, but it just looked like a team of destiny.
You never know.
Yeah, you
You
never
never
know.
know. You never
But
know.
the writing on the wall has always been that they're not going to be able to run this back with the same team. So
We'll
it
see if
just
they
felt
do.
like they were a team of destiny.
Mhm.
They went out and they put on this masterclass performance for like a huge crowd. It was a party. It's got a very different vibe for me compared to the other two finals, where the first one was kind of like, yeah, this is like a Fletchling League final, and it was fun. And then the next year was like, oh man, this is a close damn game that went to the final play. That has in its own right is amazing. And
Yeah.
then for me, this game was just I kind of just explained how I felt about it.
Yeah, I mean, I love this game. I think you can maybe just because of how close they were, like the game was, you could probably make an argument of 2019 being a better overall game. But I think as we just kind of talked about the production of this, like this game was on CBS proper. This game was on TSN2, so you got the national
Yeah,
broadcast, national
so it
cable
was on
broadcast.
CBS in 2019,
Yes, but it wasn't on
but it wasn't
TSN2,
on
and we had
TSN2.
what did we have to do? We watched it on like Facebook or something in 2019, I think, right?
Yeah, because
Would that
all
have
their
been what it was?
games were there's no
Yeah,
rugby
it was
network,
on
so we had to
Facebook or
watch it on
YouTube,
Facebook.
right? So TSN, big step up. I think having the game at the Coliseum, it just looks better. It just looks better.
For sure.
On
Yeah,
everything.
Torero is a beautiful stadium. It
Yeah,
is
but
not.
it's not the Coliseum. It just looks better. So it's like the spectacle that they were able to put out because of the location of the game. I thought was great. It makes it look a lot bigger. It's cool that it got on national TV in both countries. TSN2 being the alternate feed, but still, it's a national channel. And that was the channel that the Arrows played on the whole time. So it was like that's obviously if you're gonna that's the place to go to catch MLR games in Canada, right? I think that would be a really cool thing. It was a really cool step forward. And I know this is the championship, and I know this is a little bit different, but I do think that would be a cool thing. Like if we could get more than, yeah, I think it would be cool if in the future, eventually, it's like, more than just the arrows end up on TV up here.
Well, I saw
Um,
someone make the suggestion. I think it's a great idea. Whatever is the CBS game of the week, put it on TSN.
put it on TSN, yeah.
That's one game. That way the rugby network isn't losing a lot. Like I can't watch it on the rugby network anyways.
Yeah,
Let me
that was
watch it on TSN.
that weird block out that some of the
Yeah.
CBS games were blocked out,
Yeah,
and
exactly. If
people
you're if
people were still using VPNs or something up.
Yeah, exactly. So if I can't watch it there, put it on.
Yeah,
Now that you've got this relationship started with TSN,
yeah, no, for
Arrows
sure.
probably definitely helped
So I think
connect
kind of the
that
spectacle.
divide.
I think the other thing too, which I think looked a lot better, was the trophy presentation and like the celebration after.
See, I was on my way to a wedding,
Oh, so you didn't
so
watch
I
it?
didn't see that. I
The,
just
it,
I
it
watched enough in the
looked,
car that I'm like, okay, time's off.
yeah,
Not wasting my
that's
wife's
fine.
data.
It was like it looked similar to like the other big presentations. Hockey fans will continue to rip on every sport that hands the trophy to the owner before the players. Um, but other than that, it was like they had the stage set up. I realized I think I have no idea what Adam Gilchrist looked like until today. I mean, I think
I saw him in those
yeah, for like
stockbroker or
this,
the New York City stock
yeah,
exchange photos. I'm like, huh,
yeah, you
you're
know
the
what I mean?
crazy
Yeah,
guy. Okay.
yeah. I was gonna say, I guess he doesn't like that huge public profile or whatever. I realized I had no idea what he
Other
looked
than the
like.
fact that he's named two teams after
Yeah, I know.
himself.
Yeah, what if? Yeah, exactly. He's named two teams after him, but apparently he doesn't like to be
And one of
seen.
them's already trying to back away from that by going AG rugby.
No, they were using AG rugby from the get go.
Yeah.
They were using it from the get go.
I know,
In
but
like
like
the initial press release. That's why the logo was AG from the beginning. Um, but but yeah, like the presentation looked good. Like the confetti, like you said, a little bit of a party on the pitch after. The players showing like the locker room videos, it looked just like any other major professional sports
Yeah.
team just won a championship. Like, all the locker rooms all taped up and stuff,
I wonder how
champagne
like some of
everywhere.
the international guys like felt seeing this. Like, they didn't really show a lot from the Springboks final. Like they're all piss drunk and bungees anyways by the end of it. Like this was, yeah, you're right. This was a very much an American celebration.
Yeah, no, and
It
I
was
think
wild.
that's kind of what you need. Um, I think that's kind of what you need. Like, but it's like it was cool to see like guys kind of parading around the shield and stuff, and but like I think it's awesome that I thought it was the actual, like, because if we're talking about that product and stuff, like this was like the most, I guess, professional looking game.
Yeah, I agree with you
I
wholeheartedly.
Right. I think you could argue that 2019,
Was a better
especially
game
LA, really
on the
pulled
pitch.
away. So there was a little bit, it was a little bit less dramatic. I'm not going to
Yeah.
say it wasn't a bad game by any stretch of the imagination. It was a little bit less dramatic because LA did pull away. Um, and then there was a consolation try at the end, but LA by
I'm gonna
Ross
go watch the
Deakin,
2019 final
but
after
LA
this.
kind of pulled away, right? But so a little bit less dramatic,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
I mean, I thought like the actual product, man, was unreal. It looked great, and even the other things surrounding it. I know they did the live MLR kickoff podcast and a couple of the other things too, right? So um they looked like they went all out on making it look as like
Yeah.
top class as possible.
Well, Derek, I think that's where we're going to probably end it tonight. We've talked a lot about a lot of things. Um, as the Rugby Canada situation kind of unravels, as it is currently, we will try to update you folks on what's going on. Head to Rouge Rugby on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and we will try to update things as things go along. Twitter is probably the best for our updates on that news. And follow Derek on Brissette the Jet. He has got the finger on the pulse on a lot of this stuff, whether he likes it or not. And you know what? In the next couple weeks, we've got some exciting stuff to talk about before we probably go on a little bit of a break. We've got the MLR draft in a little bit. Next week, we will be looking at kind of the season as a whole. Who do we like? What do teams need to do in the off season? Kind of put in a tidy bow on MLR 2021, and we want our good friend Stu there to kind of talk about that stuff as well. So, follow us on social media. Follow us on all the podcasting streaming platforms, YouTube. We really appreciate it, guys, and just love each other. We're all here supporting a game with an odd shaped ball. Just enjoy it.